Hi guys, guess who it is again? Your worst nightmare. I'm just joking. I'm trying to be funny. All right, now just with these video clips, I want to mention, obviously they're not staged. I don't have a script to work to, so I am filming them live on a renovation site. So if I do stuff up here or there, or my grammar is not entirely correct, please forgive me. I'm just obviously trying to share my knowledge with you. Okay, now, this week I want to talk to you about painting, all right? Some little tips when it comes to painters. Now, painters are one of those trades where you've really got to do your homework on who you engage. In fact, there's a lot of different nationalities that work as painters, so you really need to do your reference checks and make sure that you're getting good painters in to do the job, okay? Now, normally with painting, there are certain stages. The first thing that painters have to start with is what's called the preparation, okay? This is where they literally, in fact, guys, do you mind if I just borrow this for a second? Most of your sanders will come through with tools like this, and they're really just going through and they're sanding areas like that, where they're just basically smoothing everything out. They're looking for little nooks and crannies, basically smoothing. A big part of their preparation work is what's called filling, and that's where they'll go through with things like this, like gap sealer, for example. So they'll look for the little holes, little indentations, and they'll fill them either with like a flexible silicone like this, or they'll come through and they'll fill them with a putty compound as well. I'm looking for some, but there's none here right now. So preparation is probably the most hardest part of a painter's job. In fact, you've got to be careful, because this is where a lot of painters tend to take shortcuts. They don't clean properties properly. They come through and they're very ad hoc with the preparation. At the end of the day, you've got to make sure the property is properly prepared, because if not, then it will reflect in your outcome in the painting at the end. So really make sure that when you are briefing your tradespeople, make sure that they're aware that they have to prepare the surfaces properly. So that's sanding, it's putting. In fact, I'll take you through the back here and I'll just show you some examples of that. All right, so on this particular renovation, we're filming, so we're actually painting internally and externally. So I wanted to show you, for example, I've installed a new door to the rear of the property here, and obviously there's all the little nail marks. You can see them through here, okay? Now some painters, like see here for example, this hasn't been filled properly, see that? Okay, so I will go and speak to those painters after I film this video clip, and I'll tell them they need to do this properly, all right? So this is why it's so important as a project manager to be on site, particularly if you're doing a big structural renovation, is because people do take shortcuts. That's a reality. They may not share the same quality vision as you, so you have to be there managing and just keeping an eye on what is happening on your site. I'm not saying look over their shoulder, but just be conscious of what's happening on site. So that's a classic example of preparation. Now, in fact, I just want to show you one thing. I did actually have words to the painters on my current site. In fact, I'm going to show you one little thing. I'm not tall enough to reach, but I know my camera guy is. But see here, see how it hasn't really been prepared properly up in the corner here. So about an hour ago, I said to these painters, I said, look, hey guys, you've taken some shortcuts on the preparation here. I can see lumps and things underneath the undercoat, so that just doesn't cut it. So they're the sorts of things that you need to pull up. All right, let's go through and I'll just share some things with you on the painting side. Now, you can see here, see how they've come here? So we're working with existing walls. See how they've come through and they've patched, they've filled up different things. That is all part of the preparation work. Okay, so make sure they don't take shortcuts with this, because if they do, you will see it when the final coat comes on, and you'll see lumps and bumps and all sorts of things. Not nice. All right, now what can I tell you about paint? Pretty much the process is this. You've got undercoat. The first coat tends to be undercoat. Now, a lot of painters take shortcuts with undercoat. What they do is they'll quote you on 2 coats, and you think it's 2 coats of paint, but it's not. It's actually 1 coat of undercoat and 1 coat of actual colour. Now, what they do is a shortcut, if they want to try and cut cost, is what they do is they actually tint the undercoat to your paint colour. So for example, they would get an undercoat in this property and they would tint it to my lanyard colour, and they would count that as 1 coat. So obviously you'd have some colour, and then the second coat would go over the top. So just be conscious in your scope of works documents, what you should be saying is 1 coat of undercoat and then 2 coats of colour, all right? If it's a low budget property like this one, then it's okay to do 1 coat of undercoat and 1 coat of paint, because I'm dealing with a lower value property. That's why those scope of works documents are really, really important. It's going to cut out the variations on site. It would potentially cut out the arguments of you saying to the painter, no, that's not one coat of paint, that's an undercoat, and them saying, no, it's got colour in it. So you can see how all the arguments can start if you're not very clear in your communication. Now, in properties that are already painted, like this one, for example, you don't need to go and re-undercoat the wall again. So it's perfectly fine just to sand it and prepare it and then put another 2 coats of paint on. However, look at this wall. This wall is way too dark for this house. And so this will require 1 coat of undercoat just to basically take it back to a light neutral colour, and then 2 coats of paint. Now, skirting boards and architraves. What I want to share with you here is a couple of things. Now, I've obviously installed, one of my ways that I like to add value is to go in and put thicker skirting boards and architraves right around the property. So with this being a project home, had very thin skirting boards. So you can see my carpenters come through and put some new skirting boards. See the gaps here? The painters have to go through and they have to fill this with no more gaps, okay? That is part of the preparation phase. So make sure you have all of these things covered in your scope of works documents. Now, when it comes to things like your architraves and your skirting boards, most painters don't like to use gloss enamel these days, which is an oil-based coat. That's that really sticky paint. So a lot of gloss paints now are water-based. However, I always used oil-based paints because you get a much shinier finish than the water-based gloss paints, okay? So I would recommend that you always use oil-based gloss enamel. Remember, your objective with your renovations is to get everything shining and sparkling and looking light and bright. So you make sure that you have shiny, high gloss skirting boards, high gloss architraves. You can see here the floor is high gloss. It's a floating floor, but it's got a high gloss, it's shining. So shine, shine, shine all the way, okay? So the painters will come in and what they'll say to you is, don't paint your skirting boards and your architraves gloss because it'll show all the defects, and that's true, okay? They'll say paint them a matte colour, but trust me, a matte colour on your skirting boards gives you an entirely different look. It doesn't look as good as a shiny skirting board on architrave. So make sure you say to your painters, shine, shine, shine all the way. Gloss, gloss, enamel. Try and avoid doing anything in your renovations that is a matte colour, with the exception of your wall paints. Now, when it comes to your actual walls, just use a paint like Dulux Wash and Wear. You're basically looking for a low sheen a low sheen paint, okay? You definitely do not have shiny walls on your walls, okay? All right, what else can I tell you about paint? I think that's pretty much it. All right, I can't think of anything else that I can share with you. So I hope you found this useful. Guys, I look forward to seeing you again next week.